Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm Courtney.
And I'm MK.
Sure thought you were about to take a drink of wine before you said your name, and I was like, "Come on now, we have an intro that we do."
It's okay. I almost started saying the intro, and then I was like, it's not my turn.
No, that's not your turn. Anyways, aside from that, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm trying to remember all the things that happened since the last time I talked to you. But I think the most exciting, well, no.
I think you
So
covered a
I
lot of it.
I did, but I had a rough week last week. I stayed at school until 10 p.m. on Tuesday.
Yeah, I
Um,
remember.
mhm,
I told you I was like, "Go home."
yeah. Well, and then because I stayed at school because I was like trying to finish like decorating my bulletin boards and stuff because that's something I'm really bad at. Like I'm great at teaching. The whole like making your classroom look like a learning environment. I no. I can't. I don't have the energy for that.
I agree.
But then on Wednesday, the reason I was stayed so late on Tuesday is because on Wednesday we were supposed to have meetings with the principal about our classrooms and everything. And on Wednesday, my principal was like, listen, I know the bulletin boards suck, but like, you gotta have them done. And I know, I was like, I know, listen, blah, blah. And we talked about the fact that I'm always the last person in the building and like how long I'm staying and everything and how much work I'm putting in. And they were like, what can we do to make things better for you? So I don't have
Remove.
debt. Well, yes. But as of Thursday, I don't have desks in my classroom anymore. And I got rid of all of
What?
them.
What?
I was like, I hate having to. I was like, because I do so much group work in my class and I do
Right.
all kinds of things where they're moving around, they're sitting on the floor, they're laying. I don't need desks. And all that ever happens is that the desks are somewhere and then the kids move them and then I pick up the classroom after them and I'm done. So now I don't have desks anymore. I have tables. I have four big round tables with chairs at them, and that we're going to decorate the tables, and the kids will be easily be able to do group work. And because it's only four tables, if we have to move them for like being on the floor,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Genius. I love it.
yeah.
Great
So I and the
thinking.
kids were like, I
Scared
was
out of their
like,
minds when they walked
they
in.
were
Yeah.
they walked in and they're like, this is too much change for one day, and I was like, yeah, good, good.
Yeah.
Take
You're
it,
welcome.
suck it up. But yeah, no, Pip's heat lamp burned out and I was really worried about her, but then I got a new heat lamp and she's doing great. She's super happy. Everything's good there. My desks or my tables are the most exciting part of my life right now. I'm, and I
Look,
know that's the dumbest thing.
no, that's a big, like, you told me, and now I'm like, am I okay from this change? And it doesn't affect me. Like,
Right. Like I walked into the classroom, this happened on Thursday during the day, and I was so excited. And then I walked in Friday morning and I still was like, oh my God, that's right. I don't have desks.
I love that though for you. Like, that's because you're so like creative and stuff. So your mind is not
No,
structured in the
blind
same way of like
structured desk
desk, desk,
blinds.
desk.
No, no, I hate it.
Yeah. It makes more sense. So like I'm glad for you. Good
And we
job.
talked about maybe actually like because my school's so old and it's so small that like even the middle school has cubbies in the classroom where there's just like a coat
Mhm.
room
Yeah.
instead of like lockers. But we talked about maybe getting rid of those and getting lockers, and then the coat room area will actually be like storage and I'll have like space. And I
Ugh,
already feel like I have so much more space now
I
because I don't
love
have all
that.
these stupid desks.
Ugh.
But I kept three desks, right? Kept
Okay.
three desks. And I literally told the kids, I go, if you can't figure out how to function with four other humans at a table and you don't know how to shut up when I'm talking, those desks in the corner there, those are the islands that you will get moved to and evicted from your table if you can't figure it out.
Good. Yes, you have to have a good threat in place. So I like it.
Yeah.
I
So
like
I
it.
have eviction islands.
Ugh, I wish we all had eviction islands. Ugh, that should be like a daily, like human implemented thing.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you?
You know, better than I expected, to be
Good.
fair.
Good.
Um, I did a lot last week. It's the last week of Death of a Salesman. I didn't get to tell all my
Mm,
people bye this week. because only Bill came in Saturday, and Thursday I saw Steven and Nathaniel, but like they've all been so busy that they ended yesterday. So kind of a bummer. Same thing with Strange Loop. They had booked tables last night and I wasn't there, so like I get to fill
Oh.
them by and like so I was a little like bittersweet ending and I was like, these people have all been so lovely and such a big part of my life now for so long.
Yeah.
And but I've been working so much that it's just been what it is. Like we've had a lot of big parties at the bar. So Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, I was booked all day. Like there was no like for I mean, I took a break for dinner, but like there was
Yeah.
no like break in time outside of taking a break for dinner,
Hmm.
which like is good money wise, but it also means I worked 70 hours this week, but also probably closer to 80 because with the A&R that I do now, I we had Winter Jazz Fest in New York City. And so
Hmm.
Friday, me and Brian and Nora, which Brian's my new assistant, Nora's she does a lot of like sync placements and stuff. And so she works more on the licensing side, but also it's me and her that go to everything. So
Yeah.
um the three of us were going to Winter Jazz Fest. We got a ticket and they did a Manhattan Marathon on Friday, which let me tell you, that night was wild. We started at City Winery, because that's where like one of the main stages was for Jazz Fest. Incredible performers. I've got like so many cover ideas for our works now that like my A&R brain was just like going on Friday. So we saw
Fantastic.
three acts there, and then Nora and Brian both had to get home. And I was like, I live in the city. It is 8:39,
Oh, no. I was
9:30.
thinking it was like I was thinking it was like 11:30. 9:30? No, you got at least two more.
Right. So I was like, it's like we left City Winery at 9 so that Nora could catch the 9:30 train because she lives like towards Westchester. So like she's got a long ride home. And I was like, I have a couple of people I was interested in because I did a lot of research before. It's like there's a
Yeah.
couple more people I'm interested in seeing. And so I ended up going to the jazz gallery, which I couldn't get a seat at. So we were down in the lobby. But I asked her, she said that there was a live stream so we could hear it. And I was like, do you mind if we watch it too? Like, I just want to be able to see these people and like hear them. And like, even if I can't be there, I can like get familiar with their music. Incredible duo. Like it was a piano and guitar and they were incredible. So I was glad I like stayed
Fantastic.
around for about a half hour and listened to them. And then I went to New Blue. I don't know how familiar anyone is with Avenue C in New York. Like in Manhattan, not the one in Brooklyn, but the one in Manhattan. I wasn't. So I went to New Blue because I was like, I really want to see Nate Marcero. I really want to see Isaiah Collins. And I was like, and I'll catch Reed Anderson too. So I'll end up seeing seven acts tonight, no problem. Because I didn't get a seat at Jazz Gallery. So I was like, I'll go a little earlier and just catch the first act too. New Blue is a club. There was a disco ball hanging from the ceiling. And I went by myself. I walked in and I just ordered double Jameson. I was like, I don't know how to approach this situation. I was like, there's lights flashing, it's dark, people are standing everywhere. There's a disco ball, it's electronic music. So I went and I found this couch area on the side and I just sat down on the couch and drank my Jameson and
Yep.
I texted people and hung out on my phone. I listened to Nate Mercer. I listened to Reed Anderson and not my style. And I don't think there's a lot of places we can go with that. I listened to Nate Mercero and they kind of had a lot of Pink Floyd vibes, which is fine. Also, not always my favorite type of music, but I understand how
Yeah.
well renowned it is and how
Yeah.
like important it is. And I do like. I mean, there's a lot of Pink Floyd songs I like, but that's kind of what they reminded me of. But it was just so weird that like I felt like I was hearing the beginning to breathe from Pink Floyd, and there's a disco ball, there's lights, and there's people, and it's dark, and I was just like, I'm gonna listen to one song from this band, and I'm just gonna skip Isaiah Collins today. Like, I don't think I'm gonna make it through. So I ended up
No.
getting home about 12:30 or 1, but it was just like a wild night for me.
Yeah.
I committed because we
You
left work at
did.
4 and I got home close to 1. Like,
Well, I did not do anything that exciting, but I did learn why I don't bingo like an old lady.
oh, I love bingo.
Because I love bingo on my phone.
Right.
But I went to a fundraiser for my friend's daughter's dance studio on Saturday, and it was a bingo, and it was designer handbag bingo. Um,
Okay.
it was intense.
Bingo does get intense.
It got like there was a room of 500 middle-aged women that was silent,
That sounds right.
and I was overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But I did get to see my friends Tracy and Amy, who I haven't seen in so long. Like I
Oh,
literally haven't
good.
seen Tracy since August.
Oh,
Um,
that's so
it
long.
was, I know, it was so nice. And she was asking me about Christmas and she asked me what Dan and I got for each other. Tracy's the one who convinced me to date Dan in the first
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
But she asked what we got for each other and I was telling her and she just started laughing at me and she goes, he got you a heating pad for your back and you got him kitchen tools. That's not a first Christmas together. You guys are 100 years old and a married couple. Like it's disgusting.
Oh, 1,000%. A
And
thousand percent.
and I was like, we just got things we needed. Like I don't understand.
Well, like you're also like adults. It's not like you're 16-year-old teenagers who just started dating. Like,
Right. I mean, and like we also got like he got me a glass ornament of a peacock that was beautiful and it like had to do with him and I painting the peacock on my bedroom wall and like I got
right.
him a puzzle that was like his favorite picture of us and like we got romantic things too, but we're also both like practical people and it's not like we're in the honeymoon phase. Like we already know we're going to get married. It's just a matter of
Yeah.
timing. So like it was just, but it was so funny how she was just like, I'm like, I'm sitting here at bingo. I'm being made fun of by my friends. And then she just goes, hey, do you want a drink? And I was like, yeah. And she just pulls out seltzer from her like look. Her husband came at intermission because there was like 15 rounds of bingo, and her husband came at intermission
That's
with like
incredible.
a snack bag of like hard seltzer and pretzels for us.
Oh my God, you are 1,000. Like, I'm here for the bingo, but that's a little far with all like
Yeah, no, so we like
intermission
had
snacks.
yeah, we had snacks and alcohol and like a whole setup and we had a bag full of bingo daubers for if ours ran out. Like it was and we were talking about the fact that I got kitchen tools for Christmas. Like I was like, I'm literally a 90-year-old woman.
That's incredible. I love it.
And
You know what
then
else
and
I
and then I
love?
got flagged on YouTube for swearing.
Right. So like, hit or miss. Depends on the day.
Right?
Yeah. Um, so that said, you know what else I love?
What is that?
I love a good spiritual affirmation.
Well, and you know what's so funny? Because we've talked about the fact that I just like put these in a random order and I'm just
Yeah.
picking from the pile. Because today's spiritual affirmation card says, meet up with a friend and have a good bitch.
Well,
And I feel like we
done.
both did that.
Check. Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've been
Like
talking at this point for what, 4 hours now?
4 hours.
Yeah,
For us, 4 hours, but also like both of us, like what we did in the last week was just like get drinks with our friends and bitch about our lives. Like
absolutely.
that is where we're
Absolutely.
it's beautiful.
I had drinks with friends Thursday, Friday, and I mean Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Like,
I spent the night Friday by myself, which was amazing. But
yeah,
then I had drinks with friends Saturday, and then yesterday was it was football. It was a football
right.
day.
Yeah. No, we went and watched the unseen artist table read got over like right before halftime of the Giants game. And so we like rushed over to that closest Irish bar
Okay.
and
All
watched
right.
the Giants
So
game and the Bengals game
this
there.
episode will come out on the 29th or something of January. So no, what's 7 plus 19, 26th. Whatever. I don't know. This episode that we're filming right now is forever away. So it doesn't matter. Many games will have been played since then. But it is currently the middle of wild card weekend for football. The fucking Jaguars won on Saturday.
Yeah, they did.
The Bills almost didn't. The Giants won. I don't know what is happening in the
And then the
world.
Bengals won.
Well, the Bengals, I knew the Bengals were going to win. The
I mean,
Bengals and
they
the
did
Bills,
well
the
last year.
Bengals and the Bills,
Yeah.
I knew they were going to win. That was
Yeah.
fine. The Bills gave me the entire city of Buffalo a heart attack. And it was a 3.5 hour long game of football.
It,
Football's not supposed to last that long. It was bananas.
I was shocked that the Seahawks didn't win that game. I was glad because I hate the Seahawks, but like,
You were shocked that the Seahawks didn't beat the 49ers. The Seahawks shouldn't have been in the playoffs.
no, they shouldn't have been. But like the 49ers, I don't know if they should have been either. And
It was it was
yeah,
just
it's been all, and
well
I was also like, I just had like accepted the Jaguars were gonna lose
well
because
here's
I've
the
had
thing.
Kirk Cousins. Is it Kirk Cousins?
No, Kirk
That's on
Cousins
the
is the Vikings.
who's somebody Kirk then Christian Kirk. Sorry, I get all my names mixed up.
Yeah.
Christian Kirk plays for the Jaguars, and so I had him on my fantasy all year, and so I was like, Jaguars got to make it all the way. Like I'm committed, and then I was like, they're not gonna win. I
Well,
was
what
like, that's
happened
not gonna
was
happen.
so Dan and Doug and I are watching the Jaguars game on Saturday night. And then I had just been playing, I was at work and then I was at bingo. So like my back could no longer handle being seated. So
Mhm.
I went to lay down just because I literally couldn't be sitting up anymore because tailbone injury. So Dan
Right.
and I are in his room just because I physically cannot be standing or sitting. And then whatever, and we left and the Jaguars were down by like 27 or
Like a
something
thousand points.
obnoxious.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Doug just goes, "Hey guys, you might want to come back out here." And we were like, "Why?" He goes, "I don't even know how to explain what is happening right now."
To tell you what's happening.
And so we walk back in the living room and I go, "I'm sorry, what?" It was I cannot.
It was wild. Yeah.
It was wild.
Yeah.
So yeah, football has been the most wild
Weird.
part of my week.
But like this whole year has been weird for football. So like I get it.
Right.
You know what else has been weird? And will probably
Fucking
be weird until we get done.
fucking Bates Motel.
It's a new week. It's a new season. It's a new era for Bates Motel.
Now, I knew that there was a time jump, but I was not prepared.
I also was not prepared. I agree. So we do have a time jump in this season, which will be addressed throughout as we come across things that have happened that should not have happened in 5 minutes, but happened in,
Correct.
3 to 5 years. Um, this is season 5, episode 1, called Dark Paradise, which is like the most apt title.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
really.
I hate it. I hate it.
But incredible. So it aired February 20th of 2017. We are like almost in the same like time frame of where we're living now. It's only 6 years
That's
ago.
so weird.
Um, it was rated 8.5 out of 10, which is not bad for an opener. And
Hmm.
I don't know where we're going. So, yep, sounds good to me. Like, I don't have any feelings otherwise. Number one song is Shape of You by Ed Sheeran.
Of course it is.
Number one movie is Get Out, which is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Number one book is Right Behind You by Lisa Gardner. And I have not read any of Lisa Gardner's books, but I have a lot on my to be read list because I've heard
Okay.
she's really good. So I have a lot of her books that I'm like interested in reading. I didn't have this one on there, but it's now added on there since I've done research.
Fantastic.
Um, Nothing happened on this day,
I believe it.
but I made some things happen. It was President's Day.
Okay.
There were a lot of birthdays. Patty Hearst and Brian Luttrell both had birthdays, not in this year, obviously, but this was their birthday. In 1877 on this day, Swan Lake premiered. They had the premiere performance at the Bolshoi, is it Bolshoi Theater, the one in Moscow?
Okay.
And the popular names of the year, baby names, were Emma and Liam.
Sorry, you said what day in February?
20th,
February 20th.
2017.
Of 2017. I was student teaching.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was just finishing my first student teaching placement about then. I was auditioning for Henry V at Shakespeare in the Park. I was in a very tumultuous attempt at a relationship. Um, because that was the year that I started dating the chef, and then I didn't really know what I was doing, and I didn't like him as much as he liked me, and I felt bad. And I think that's about when we started dating.
Yeah.
Um,
I was probably crying because this was my second year of the second half of my second year of law school, and it was one of the roughest periods
yeah.
of my law school career.
Oh
So
no.
probably was sad and not doing well. But
It was about a month away from turning 25, and my 25th birthday is when I flew to Germany for a day.
for a day,
Yeah, you don't remember that?
I don't.
Oh, it was like right before I came to New Orleans. I went to Germany for literally a weekend and I went to a concert. Like I got there Saturday morning, went to a
Oh,
concert, got to the concert Saturday night, like spent Sunday at the park and then flew home Monday
was
morning.
that for Tokyo Hotel?
Yeah.
I do remember that. Okay, I do remember
Yes.
that. Just kidding, just kidding.
Yeah, so it was like a weird
Um,
time. 2017, like early 2017, weird time. Weird
weird year,
time.
weird year. Yeah, nothing else is really weird. The director is Tucker Gates. The
Fantastic.
writers are the same. We do have a story editor who's been added. It's Tori Spear. They were also a writer's assistant for a lot of the season. So they've been involved in a lot of the episodes already, but they've officially been credited as story editor for this episode.
Fantastic.
Um, they also are known for something called Impulse, which I haven't seen, but she did write the morning show. So like pretty like standout credits for the few that she has. Um, our guest star this episode, which I will be talking a lot about from now until the end, is Isabel McNally, who plays Madeline Loomis. And she is known for everything I've never heard of. She's known for
Fantastic.
Frances Ha, which I think I've heard of, but that was like the only one that I was like, I might have heard of this. And
Okay.
Before I Disappear, she is the daughter of Keith McNally. Her first language is French, and she is an avid table tennis player.
Good for her.
And that is Isabel McNally. And with that, we start probably 3 years in. I don't know that we got an exact time frame.
My mom said that Wikipedia said that it was 2 years later.
Oh, okay, fine.
I
I
don't
used my
know.
brain.
I didn't look it up. I literally was like, I don't even know what the time jump was. And my mom was like, I'm pretty sure Wikipedia says it's 2 years later. And I was like, okay, I will take your word for it because I'm
I'm gonna
not Googling it.
go change on Wikipedia 3 years because it felt more like a 3 year transition than a 2 year. And so, like, that's what I think it was. It was probably 2 years, but still.
Well, I think 2 years seems correct just in terms of when you would get up for parole.
But he has 2 years left from now, right? That he's getting released,
Yeah,
which feels like a
so
5 year sentence.
maybe. Okay, so
So
it's
3 years would be parole.
somewhere to between 2 to 3 years. It's
Yeah,
something in that time frame.
right.
Okay.
So naturally, we start with only creepy things. We start with Bing Crosby's beautiful baby and a delusional Norman.
Okay, I never realized how creepy the lyrics to that song are until I was reading them on like the
The
closed
subtitles?
captions, and
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, this is fucked up.
Yep. I felt the same way. I was like, okay, it's Johnny Mercer wrote it, and I forget who the other writer was, but I was like, it's really prominent people that like worked on this song. I was
And I
like,
don't know if that's just like a times they are a changing, but like
I mean, I mean,
not.
it's Johnny Mercer and Bing Crosby, so like possibly, but
Yeah, I did not care for the way that they were talking about pretty
yeah,
children.
we we follow Norman through his wake up, and Juno is of course alive because he's in a delusional state. Everything is sunny and bright and happy. He goes into the bathroom and brushes his teeth, and Norma's lingerie is all behind him. And he's like, we got to go downstairs, buddy. It's breakfast time. I smell breakfast. He goes downstairs to Norma making breakfast. And it's just,
I wrote, I can't explain how much I fucking hate this show.
yeah. And Norma is exactly who he wants her to be, which is among many of the reasons you can tell this is not how we're going.
Mhm.
And then he walks out the door, and probably one of the greatest scenes in this episode. The camera pans back in, and everything is dark and everything is a mess. And it's like we came into this happy and bright and everything's good for Norman. And then, like, when he steps out of his delusional state into reality, we see that it's really not that way.
That was a really good scene.
Yeah. And then we hit the credits. So, like, if you weren't sure, we're still watching Bates Motel because that was spot on where I expected us to go.
Mhm.
So, yeah. And then we jump over to prison to see your love early on.
I wrote the
And,
fact that Alex is in prison and Norman isn't. I can't. I can't. I can't.
but we knew that.
I know.
And it's a very like quick glimpse of him in prison. We see him heading out for the day. He has a picture of him and Norman on the wall. I mean, him and Norma on the wall. And I said,
And
you know,
it's a picture of him and Norma and a picture of him and his mom. Like that is
yeah,
just the saddest thing in the entire
I
world.
know. And I was like, I bet he's thriving in prison though. Like, I know that like dirty cops don't do well in prison normally, but like Alex really seems like he's doing well at this point.
But he's not. Like, I
I
mean,
mean,
he is.
emotionally he's not, but like
No, but
staying alive.
even then, like he's not getting into fights. I mean, obviously, and we find this out later, like he's not getting into fights. He's having good times with his like therapy and rehab, but like he's still not actually thriving because he still is a dirty cop, like at the end
Right,
of the
right.
day.
But like he's doing much better than I would have expected for a cop in
Fair.
prison.
Fair.
Um,
Mm.
so we just have that like reminder of where he's at before we pop back over to Norman, who has fooled everyone
When did he
except
get so fucking social?
he just knows everyone. He goes to the hardware store to buy paint because he's like been changing things out at the hotel and he's ready to like paint the outside.
But
And
he's
he
like
gets
talking to
there.
like random people that he walks by about their dogs and stuff. And I was like, when
Yeah,
did he become a social person?
he knows everyone and everyone knows him. And he walks in and he talks to this girl, and I was like, great, he's found a new crush. That's no good.
Correct.
Um,
I literally wrote, oh, that poor girl.
I know. And he's talking to her, and it turns out she's married, which is best for everyone. And then she tells him that his house, he was like telling her where he's from, and she's like, oh my gosh, that house reminds me of a Hopper painting. And that's a connection because the Hopper painting House by the Railroad is what inspired the look of the Bates house.
Yes.
So, very good connection there. And then we learn her name is Madeline Loomis,
AKA
which
Sam Loomis.
exactly, which like takes us to be like, okay, we know this family. And then Norman goes to buy the paint. Everything is good. Everything is chill. And he pulls out a wallet that's not his.
Okay, but also like that was not enough paint for the outside of the motel. I don't know if that was a sample, but like she
That
was
wasn't
holding
enough
like
paint for
three
like a
jars of
wall.
paint. I literally, as someone who just painted a room,
Yeah.
absolutely not. I was so mad about it.
I was going to say you can't even paint like a whole room with that much paint. Like I
No,
felt like,
no, no, no.
because they were small cans. Like, but yes,
Yeah.
agreed. Um, so he pulls out this wallet and he's like, this isn't, he looks at the ID, doesn't recognize it. And we see the name Jim Brickwell and we don't know what's going on.
I was like, who the fuck's wallet is that?
Right. I was like, who is this person? And he panics and he's like, oh no, I don't have my wallet. This is someone who left it at the hotel. I'll be back. And just like takes off. And that's the first time we see Norman not keeping it together for this season.
Right.
And I mean, you know, in
I
his
wrote
mind, not keeping it together.
right. I was like, what the actual fuck is happening right now?
Yeah. And we have a brief scene of Alex trying to call someone and it like not connecting. And so it's like, fine. We'll come back to that, I guess.
Right. I
I
literally
do.
didn't take any notes about that scene because I didn't think I understand why it was important until later.
I just assumed it was important. I didn't know why.
Right.
So we go to the Bates Motel and we see Norman's first memory lapse. And he's talking to Norma and he's like, I don't remember checking this guy in. He's like, I don't know why I have this wallet. And he says to her, he says, do you ever feel like do you ever have the feeling you're living the same nightmare over and over without remembering it? And I was like, that is so terrifying for
So,
him.
yeah.
But like, also he's not taking his meds, so like it's his own fault. But like,
Right.
also terrifying. And she's just like, no. I was like, okay. Way to just
Right.
like blow that
No
off,
big
I guess.
deal.
And then we go back to Dylan, love of my life.
And this is when I realized how fucking long has it been?
Yes, that's also how I felt. We get there to his house in Seattle. He's having a party. We learn that he's getting a promotion. He's working in beer. He's doing great.
Everything is
And
wonderful.
we find out that him and Emma have had a baby. They're like really a family now. It's precious. And then Caleb shows up. Apparently, randomly. We learn that it's Emma's birthday and she's having her birthday party.
I was like, this is so
It was
awkward.
so awkward. And Emma is like, handles it like a champ.
Okay, but then to be fair, like I know he's kind of a mess and that we're still like not sure and he is not good for Caleb. But the fact that he was like, I just kind of like kept up with you and through
No,
Emma's
that's, yeah.
Facebook because like I just wanted to make sure you were okay and I never reached out, but then I saw that you had the baby and I just wanted to like let you guys know that I love you. Like I was like, that's so sweet.
No, that's very sweet and that's very fair. It does not give him a right to be in their lives, but it is nice thought that he's doing that. Like, I
It's
like that
it's
he's
so
keeping
it's
up with
so
them.
hard because he is so bad for them, but the difference, like Norman aside, the difference is Norma is bad for them and she's selfish about it. Caleb
Mhm.
is bad for them, but he's trying so hard not to be. He just doesn't have the tools to be a better person.
Right, right.
Like I think with some therapy, Caleb would be a great grandpa.
Yeah. I think therapy for all of them
Well, yeah, for sure. For sure, for
would
sure.
have to come in place before he could be
Be
involved in the family. Yeah, but I agree that that's not out of the realm of things. They let him hold the baby, and we learn that Caleb, Emma, and Dylan still don't know about Norma. And that just kind of like caught me off guard because I was like, we've had such a time lapse that I feel like we should know. But the last thing we saw with Dylan was Norman saying, we shouldn't talk anymore. And Dylan completely disconnecting from that part of life. Like, that was his only connection to that town anymore was Norma and Norman
he
because
doesn't
he'd cut
have
everything else
anyone.
off.
Because even if he did, like, who would be the only person he could reach out to? Alex? Alex is in prison.
Chick, but they never got along. But like, that's the only other person that would tell him, I feel like.
Right. And
And
what would Chick say? We never know what happened with Chick coming back to Norman. Chick's probably not
yeah,
alive.
probably so. Bless his
Like
heart.
my guess is that if Chick came back to check on Norman and stop him from whatever he was doing, he got the
Got the axe.
yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by that. But yeah, and then Caleb wants to stay with them because he has nowhere else to stay. And I'm like, you can't just show up people's houses and ask them to stay there. But of
But
course, Emma and Dylan, well, Emma mostly is like, you know what? Yeah, we don't have an extra bedroom, but you can sleep on the couch. It's fine.
right.
And like, whatever. So he's there now. We go back to Norman and he's double checking all the names of people he's checked in now to see if he can find Jim Brickwell.
Mhm.
And of course he can't.
Of course.
And he what does that say? Oh, I said of course he creeped up the place with adding an incessant amount of taxidermy pets. Because we see
Of
him walking through and
course.
there's just so many animals everywhere. Um,
Yeah.
and then we learn Norman's been keeping a diary of his blackouts. And
Okay. And
honestly, yeah, go ahead.
my note says that is somehow the creepiest and healthiest thing he's ever done.
Literally. Like I was like, this is honestly the most like healthy he's been at keeping up with his like mental health because he can keep up with where he's at when he's there and figure out when he like what happened on the other
Right,
side.
like, and the fact that he like knows when he blacks out and has like a calendar of it and is able to like identify if things happened during those events, like that is the healthiest thing he ever could
Absolutely.
do, other than, I don't know, maybe fucking
Like
taking his
get
meds.
yeah, like get treatment or something. Yeah. No, and like
Right.
not kill people. Yeah, fine. But 100%. Yeah. So that kind of surprised me. Um but in a good way, I guess, even though
Right.
I understand that like he needs to be doing something
Yeah.
different, but at
I
least
would
there's
guess.
something.
I was like so baffled because I was like, how am I supposed to feel about this? Because I'm creeped out by it, but also like mentally, that's not a bad choice. Like, what
Right.
is happening?
And he learns at the time that he was theoretically around Jim Burkwell was when he had
Yeah.
one of his memory lapses.
Good.
But that's all we know.
That's
And
all
we
we
have a
know.
another brief moment. I really like, as much as I don't I get annoyed by like jumping around episodes, I like how we had the brief interactions with Alex throughout this episode. It
Hmm.
was really well placed and really well done for the story.
Yeah.
Um, and this is when we learned that his parole got denied. And his, I assume, parole officer, or like not parole officer, but whoever's like,
Like counselor in prison, whatever they
yeah,
are doing, however they're doing that.
um, had recommended he get parole, said he's a model prisoner, yada yada. And he's like, you knew I wasn't getting out of here. Like, they don't let
Um,
cops out. Like,
he's like,
it's
he's like, I'm a dirty cop. That's they're gonna use me as an example, whether I'm a good
exactly
prisoner or not. Like that's how that works. I just need 2 more years until I'm out of here.
right. And so he's just like committed to it. He's like, I know this is how it's gonna go. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
Um, which is like sad, but also like true.
Hmm.
Um, but then we go back to Norman, who, like, of all of the things, finds a charge for luminol. He's calling this number and he's like, what did I buy? And they're like, luminol. He's like, I don't even know what that is. It's like, Norman, that's
No.
only used to like clean up blood,
Yeah.
like to show, like, it's only, that's the only thing.
You think like, and he's like, I wouldn't have bought that. And like, you think after everything that you've done while not having a blackout, that you having a blackout couldn't have bought luminol?
Right, right. So, whatever. He's lost his mind, of course. And we have a guest walk in who's trying to rent a room for a few hours. And he says his name is David Davidson.
I literally had to pause this and stared at it for so long because I was like, I know that guy. I know that guy. I know that guy. It's because he's Julian Baker from One Tree Hill. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the actor's name is Austin Nichols, but I was like, I know that guy, but I can't look it up because I'll spoil something for myself. But I need to know because I know that guy. And my mom was like, are you okay? And I was like, I'm just gonna go to just the episode and I'm gonna scroll really fast and I'm not gonna look at how many episodes of the show he's on just to so that I don't know anything.
I
But
love
yes,
that.
but I was like, oh,
I also wonder how many episodes he's in, but we'll come back to that. So he's giving the guy, he gives him, obviously it's a fake name,
yeah.
but he rents to him for the night. He gives him a
And
key. And this is really the first time we see Norman Bates from the original Psycho as a motel manager because we see the
yeah.
peephole that he carved.
Well, and also I saw him like hover over the key for room number two and then switch to the key for room number one. And I go, Norman, you're such a perv, but also like I'm curious, so fair enough.
Right. Like I need to know
Like,
more. So like it's totally fine, I guess. But
but
yeah. So he's so creepy. So he's looking through the peephole. And I was like, I'm gonna guess he kills them. I don't know. But I'm gonna guess he kills them.
right. It's fair. I
Um,
mean, it's a fair assumption.
right. And we get but he in the middle of his thought process and whatnot, he gets a phone call that brings him back to reality, theoretically.
You're right.
However, the phone call is from Norma telling him to come home because it's time for dinner. So he goes home and he asks Norma about the luminol, and she's like, "Oh, I don't know. You probably didn't get that. It's not a thing. It's not whatever." And that's when we like learn for sure. We're like told that he's not taking his medicine, I mean, it's pretty
Yeah.
obvious, but this is
Well,
just kind of like
yeah.
confirmation, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
absolutely like, okay, that's what it
He's
is.
like, I hate having these blackouts. She's like, well, you could take your medicine again. And he's like, no, thank you.
Right, right. So like, eh, is what it is. So da-da-da, da-da-da. And then he starts telling her about Madeline Loomis that he met. He's like, I met this girl, she picked out the paint, whatever, yada yada yada, because Norma really liked the color. And Norma
Yeah.
has a breakdown about it. Like, she is not happy. And she just tells him, you just can't have other people in your life. And I was like, oh, okay.
But she's like, I have been faking being dead so that my whole life could be about taking care of you. So how dare you want someone in your life other than me? And I go, oh, so that's the lie you told yourself. Great.
Right, right. That is how it goes. But and of course we still see them in his head. They're still sleeping together, physically, not in a like sexual way, but like just physically
Yeah,
sleeping in the
yeah,
same
yeah,
bed. And
yeah.
then he goes downstairs to the basement or to the I think it's
Yeah,
the
to the
basement
basement.
here,
It's
but
the
like
basement.
it's the fruit cellar in the in the regular movie. And
Right.
to see to curl up with his like dead mother, which is
I just wrote, holy shit.
yeah.
Like that.
But that's fine because we go back to Emma and Dylan, our moment of breathing.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
Emma starts saying she thinks Caleb wants to move to Seattle and blah blah blah. And then finally tells her that Caleb gave the money for him to pay for her lung transplant.
Yeah.
And we also learned the baby's name is Kate. I don't think that's relevant. I just thought it was fun to know.
Yes.
Um, and then Norman is still spiraling at this point. He goes back into the motel and the safe is open. And he thinks it's Norma because he's delusional. And then out of nowhere, Madeline Loomis shows up. And that's not great for her, but she does.
Oh, I was like,
So,
run, lady.
right. So she wants to see the house because she just thinks it's beautiful. And Norman looks up at the window and pictures Norma there, and you see the curtain move, and it's the
Yeah.
same shot from the original Psycho film where he looks up and he says, "Oh, my mother's up there. She's sick." And like it looks like someone's still in the house.
Yeah.
And Sam and uh I forget what um
uh,
Marion Crance's
Lila.
Lila, yeah. Lila and Sam also thought they saw something, but the like detective doesn't see anything or whatever. And then Maddie invites him to a meeting for small businesses. Was like,
Yeah.
you're not wrong to invite him to that, but you don't know what you're doing.
No, I wrote, run, lady. Get out of there.
Yeah. And also she's like super married and she's not really acting like it. So don't appreciate that either.
To be fair, my theories. Because obviously things are a little bit different in this than they are in the movie, but this is like the one thing that I knew prior to the show was that the last season kind of like overlaps and interacts with the movie. And in the movie, we know that Sam is divorced because his wife like ran out on him and that things are sticky and complicated.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, my theory when I heard her name being Loomis and she was married in this hardware store, all I could think was that this is the first wife.
It is.
Okay.
It is. Can confirm.
Okay.
Um,
So yeah, of course she's gonna get involved.
right. And but bless her heart still, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and then we go back to Emma and Caleb, which is not a combination I was expecting. But she walks in the middle of the night and he's eating cake. Because like, I mean, same. And
Yeah.
she's there, he's asking her about pregnancy, if she was scared. She's like, yeah, I was totally scared second trimester, but I just felt so strong, like everything was fine. And then she tells him that Dylan told her about the money, and she was like, I really appreciate it. I can't thank you enough. I'll always be grateful. I really appreciate it. And then she says, I'll always be grateful, but you have to leave. And I was like,
Well, because
oh,
in the other scene when we have the stuff with Kate, basically like I literally my note from the first scene was like, your life has flourished without the crazy, but like you still love him. So like I get it. And Emma is the Dylan is never going to tell his dad no. And
no,
Emma is like the only way I can protect my husband, partner, boyfriend, whatever he is at this point. The only way I can protect him is to say the things that he's not going to say. And the
absolutely.
and so she does the only correct thing and
Yeah.
is like, this isn't coming from him, this is coming from me, but you
Yeah.
can't be here.
And like she's truly the only like she's the most put together person in this show.
And
She
she
knows
even
what
looks it, like the way that they've
yeah.
changed her costume with aging her up, like she looks like she has her shit together.
She's very stable. She's very and she's no longer like the half of a person because she, was connected to a machine. She had all these sicknesses. She's like a fully grown woman who is very strong and capable of
Yeah.
like taking on anything now.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
I really like that like portrayal of her. I like the
Hmm.
contrast between how we started and where we're at now with Emma.
Right. I was like, Emma's the only one on the show who's going to say the things that no one else, that everyone is thinking and no one is saying.
Yeah. Um and then Norman decides he's going to the small business meeting.
Because why not?
Right. And so he's like, all right, I'm headed out. And Norma's like, whatever, whatever. And
Okay,
then
but he's
he's like,
trying to sneak out. And I was like, sir, you
yeah,
don't have to sneak out from your hallucination.
yeah, exactly. Like, no one's really there. But she's like, okay, sounds good, but you can't take the car. And he like has this whole fight with his hallucination that he's going to take the car anyways. And like, he goes to get in the car and goes to back up. And then he sees her behind the car. And I was like, this is an insane delusion. Like,
This is
at least
like
until this point in the episode.
absolutely batshit.
Right. But like before this point in the episode, he's kept her in the house the whole time. Like, so this is us seeing her come out of the house again, like in
And
his
he
hallucinations.
even is like, why are you leaving the house? And I'm like, why did you let her leave the house? It's in your mind. What is happening?
Right. And she's like, I have to take care of you. If you're not gonna play by the rules, I'm not gonna play by the rules. And he says, who asked you to take care of me? And I'm like, you
You
did.
did.
You're the reason this is all happening. Like, but that's when she's like, let me show you. And she takes him down to the basement and we find the dead bodies. Specifically at this point, Jim Brickwell's. I'm sure there have been others, but
Yeah. I think
this
the only
is
one that's in the basement at the moment is Jim
right,
Brickwell.
right. And we come up on a flashback that was really well done. I really enjoyed this flashback.
Yes, I
And
loved how they did this scene.
I did too. And it turns out a man came in, pulled the gun on Norman while he was changing out the shower curtain. And then in Norman's mind, Norma comes in behind him and stabs him. And and that's what they have the great lighting effects and all of the scene
Hmm.
where it's just so chaotic. And we've had so many like distinct lighting. We have Dylan and Emma are in a happy place. They're in the
Their
light.
whole house is like 70s yellow and warm
Yeah.
and like hippie.
And you come to Emma and Caleb and they're in the dark because it's like not as great of a scene. When you see Norma and Norman and Norman's happy memories, happy delusion, everything is bright and light. But after that, it's all dark. So they've done a very like broad contrast. But
Well,
here
because
we
well,
have
because also
yeah,
we already have the we didn't talk about it in the moment, but when Norma has the breakdown and she says all the things about pretending to be dead, Norman is like, "Well, at least you're here and we have paradise here," which goes into the fact
the
that the
dark
episode is
paradise.
called Dark Paradise.
Yeah.
But like so in Norman's paradise, everything is
Right.
super warm and now it is not.
And you see even in the flashback that like they take it out of complete darkness, which is what they've been using a lot to show the like darker times, and they still bring in the light. Like you still see flashes,
But
you still see
it's not
bright
a
light.
warm light. It's
It's
not a
not
warm
warm.
light. No.
Exactly. And that's why I like how well they did this scene.
Yeah.
Um and I was like, oh, they're just gonna put him in the pit. I don't know if the pit still exists. I don't know if it's like all the way covered up yet.
I
But
think it's all the way covered up.
yeah, so she tells him after she goes through this whole thing, she's like, it's not like we haven't done this before. And that's
That's what
like,
he said. No, but that's what he said, not what
oh
she
yeah,
says. And I was like, oh, so he's like cognizant enough of the fact that this is
right.
like not the first time.
Right, which
But
means that like
I don't know that is that referring to Keith? Is that referring to like um how many other people have they killed together? I
right.
don't fucking know at this point.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure he considers Bradley that way. I'm sure he considers the other two women, Emma's mom and
Hmm.
what's her name? I forgot her name.
Blair.
Blair that way because he believes Norma killed them and he believes that he helped take care of it. So
Right,
like
right,
he
right.
could be just referring to the people that we already know about,
But he could be not.
but he could be not. And I'm
But I,
100% sure there was
the
more.
other thing is when he's having these flashbacks and he's having this conversation with Norma, he keeps asking the same question. And he keeps asking, why did this guy try to kill me? And I was
Yep.
like, that's the only like coherent part of this is like the fact that he doesn't, this time it was in self-defense because this guy was
Yeah.
trying to kill him and he doesn't understand why. But he then also asks, how did Norma get there so fast? So like
Right.
even
Mine
in
can't
his
connect it.
hallucination of the events, he cannot understand what's happening here, which is
Right.
fascinating.
It is. And it shows like how different his mind has transformed, even though he's still having a lot of the same delusions that like it's grown a lot differently.
Mm-hmm.
And a more terrifying turn of events, it seems.
Right.
Um, and then they have the scene where they take the body, and she was like, "That's why you couldn't have the car because I was going to get rid of the body." And
And
so
he's
they
like, all
end up
right, well, then
taking
let's get to work.
right. So they get the body and they take it out. And this scene was too dark, which is a lot of my complaints on modern day lighting in horror films. Is that they like if you're looking at like a 60s film or like even we were watching Coal Shack, it was like dark, but it was like you had night vision on. You could see everything.
Yeah.
And now they try to use the darkness as like a it's so dark you can't see anything, you don't know what's going on, it makes it scarier. And I'm like, it doesn't do that for me. Like I don't
It,
like
I'm
I
not
need to be
scared.
able
I
to
just can't see
see.
shit.
Exactly. And it's like and the lighting just doesn't do it for me when it's that dark. And I thought this
Yeah.
scene was that way, which is usually I don't have that complaint with the show, but being the last season, being the most recent, it's following a little bit of more of a
Into
modern,
that trap. Yeah.
yeah, which is unfortunate. And I'm hoping that that doesn't last throughout. Um, and then while they're burying the body and they're taking everything apart,
But okay,
at last,
one thing I want to say before we actually get to this moment where they're in the lake, because my mom is obviously not really watching the show
right,
for real, but her and I are both home today because it's Martin Luther King Day. She's like walking in and out of the room with me. And she brought up a really good point that I would have probably thought of anyway. But like, it's one thing when he's alone at home and he's having conversations.
mhm,
But the amount of things in this episode that he is doing something in tandem with her when he's
mhm.
actually alone, the physics of his hallucinations freak me out because he's
Absolutely
physically carrying an adult male body down the stairs
by
alone.
himself.
And that is
Ab-
so fucking bananas to me.
mhm. And I think that like I know, I mean that plays into a sense of like, if you have what is it when like what is the adrenaline? Like you have an
Mhm.
adrenaline rush, like they say
Mhm.
mothers can lift cars off of their kids. Like and
Yeah,
so
but
I
that's
think when he's
still
in his
not something
hallucination states, his adrenaline is running because his mind is so warped.
I it's
That's the only way I could
no, and I
understand.
think that that's probably what is happening. And I think there's a lot of the timing of things that works, but like the watching him physically carry the
Yeah.
body in a way that could not have been by itself, like my thoughts are like, so if he wasn't actually carrying it with two people, he was carrying it with one person, he's dragging it. What did he leave on the ground? Like, it's the things that I'm like
Oh,
trying to,
yes, yes.
it's the things where I'm trying to figure out what is I know that we're seeing what he's seeing, but what is actually being
Actually
left
happening.
behind?
Yeah.
How is he going to fix the holes? When is he going to come to in a way that he cleans up after him? Like the whole logic of the mental illness, which I get is not the point. That's what I'm stuck on.
No, but I think it's a good point to make though. Like I think it's definitely something very interesting about this show that like isn't on the forefront addressed. But
Right.
And I think, I think it's a great like talking point because I do think it's come up sometimes I mean, in the past, Norma's cleaned up after him.
Hmm?
And like now that she's not there, how does he get those things cleaned up? Like I think that's a great question.
And like we know he's not really fully cleaning up after himself because we
Right.
see the way the dishes are in the kitchen. We see
Right.
the way the laundry is in the bathroom. Like so, but when it's not in the house, he seems to have a better hold of things. So when it comes to the bodies, I'm just fascinated into what is actually happening versus what he is seeing happening.
And I wonder what we're not seeing because also like if you think about it, like he's putting these bodies in the trunk of the car, assumably all of them. Um, and what if like in reality, there's just a ton of blood in the car. There's a lot of like grime from these bodies because like who's checking? He's not driving people around. He's not like people aren't stopping and opening up his trunk. So
Yeah, but
there's
then
a
he's ordering
possibility.
luminol online.
Well, yeah, and I think that like that obviously is a part of it, but I don't know if that's more for the hotel itself.
Right. But then
So like
also
maybe
like
he's just
but
addressing
then
what has to be done?
right. But then also like genuinely in terms of science, how is that boat floating with him like not capsizing the way he's tossing the body in the water if he's not two people?
Right. And maybe it's a delusion. Maybe he like rolled it over the side. Maybe it was like, maybe it's what we're seeing. I mean, I assume what we're seeing is not what's really happening.
Oh, for sure.
And
For
so, like,
sure.
there are different ways. He might think he's standing on the end and they're tossing it over, but at the same time, he could be like standing in the middle and should roll it over. Like, which
Right.
would,
No, but it's things like that that I'm like I want to know what the actual physical thing is
yeah.
because I get that I'm seeing what he's seeing, and that is fascinating in and of itself. But I'm more worried about how he's managing to do it without getting caught.
No, I do love that because I thought like that's why I like the really beginning scene where you see the like mess after his
Mm-hmm.
reality, like when you come back to his reality. And I would like to see more of that with like these type of scenes where you see like this is
Both
what he's seeing, but
sides.
here's what's really happening. Exactly.
Yes. That's
So
the
I
most
would,
fascinating part
yeah.
to me.
And I mean they did do that a little bit when it was before Norma was dead, where he
Mhm.
was visualizing Norma and then would show
It would
him
show him talking
doing
to
things.
nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I'm hoping they go back to that a bit this season.
Mhm.
But we'll see. That's a good thought. Um, but yeah, and then they play it last by Ella Fitzgerald, which is like the creepiest song to throw dead bodies away to, but fine. And
Whatever.
then the phone starts ringing. And Norman grabs the phone out of his pocket, and instead of just throwing it in the water like fake Norma says, he answers it. And we learn, along with Norman, that
Literally,
Alex,
as he started answering it, I had a flashback to the first phone scene, and I was like, no. And
I know,
It was like Ben Correctional Facility, and I literally just go, fuck no. And I'm freaking out. And my mom, who, like I said, hasn't been watching the entire episode, goes, does he know who that voice is? I go, Mom, that was Alex. She goes, no, it wasn't. I was like, yes.
he 100% knows who that voice is. No question. And we learn Alex sent Jim to kill him, which
Checks out.
is a surprise, but shouldn't be because he like that's his only goal in life right now is to kill Norman, like
Yeah,
in
for
whatever way he
sure.
needs to. So, and that's where we leave the episode. And that's it. This was a pretty good opening episode, especially for
Oh,
like
for sure.
with having a time jump and being the final season. Like, I'm not disappointed.
No, not at all.
And I'm excited to see where this season goes now. Like,
Yes, I am with you on that.
that said, who do you want to punch in the face?
I mean, Norman.
So I knew you were gonna pick Norman, so I'm kind of having a cop out and I'm picking fake Norm,
that's fair.
which technically is Norman, but
But I mean, at this point,
yeah. Who's your MVP?
Emma.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gotta be. I don't know who else it could be in this episode.
She's the only one, and I think she's incredible. You're gonna be surprised, but my secondary MVP, because I knew you'd pick Emma, is Caleb.
That's fair.
Because
No, listen, when have I ever been anti somebody picking Caleb as a good person? I've been fighting
no,
for
I
Caleb
just feel like
since
it's
day one.
shocking that I pick Caleb because
I
I've
know.
always been anti.
I know, but I've
And
been
like
Team Caleb since day one.
I know. And I still think he can't be involved. And I still think there's too much there that like
Oh,
Emma's 100% correct.
oh no,
But
I do too. I think Emma's right for what she says. I think Caleb is too filled with trauma to be healthy for Dylan. I don't think Caleb's a bad person. I think both can be absolutely true.
yeah, and I think Caleb is trying to do what's best for everyone. Even because for the past, however many years, 2 to 3, he's only been watching them online. He hasn't been approaching them. He hasn't been checking it out. And just when they had a baby is when he was like, I have to see this child. Like,
My
and like
grandkid, yeah.
exactly. And so like that makes sense that he would show up. And I
Yeah.
mean, still would have been nice to call, but like I
Right.
get it. Like,
But I mean, I even like in just like so my when he was like upset, like when he first saw the baby and he was hugging her and he was talking about how beautiful she was, and he was like, I bet Norma Louise just loves this. And they were like, yeah, like we don't talk to her. And he was like, but there's a grandkid involved. I felt really intense in that moment because it's not really a secret, but that my dad and my grandpa did not have a good relationship, and that they only like mended and got close again after I was born. So like as the grandkid who fixed those situations, I know the pressure and it got me choked up.
yeah, yeah. Um, we have similar instances in our family, so I also
Yeah.
follow closely. But yeah, and so like I did pick Caleb because I do think he's trying his best and he's not. And when Emma tells him he has to leave, he doesn't try to fight it because he knows that
No,
she's right. And like,
he's so upset about it, but like he's like, but I can't argue.
and he doesn't seem to like he's trying not to let on how upset he is because he knows Emma's right and he doesn't want to make things harder for them. And so like, while I still have my issues with Caleb,
Yeah.
this particular episode, I do think he kind of came out on top, right under Emma.
Yeah.
So, I do have a few trivia facts for you. One I've already
Please.
addressed. The hardware store is owned by Sam Loomis, so it's Sam and Madeline on it. And then we learned that Emma's birthday is in October.
Okay. Great.
I didn't know it was October in the episode, but
You
I'm
could, yep, I was gonna say you couldn't have told me for shit that that was October. They were barbecuing. I'm sorry, they were barbecuing on the patio
in Seattle.
in Seattle. It was not October.
Right. But that's what the trivia says, so whatever.
Okay.
The couple in the hotel room are Sam Lewis and Marion Crane.
You know, I thought that that might be what that was. Like, I had like
Uh-huh.
a thought that that would be how that would all work out. I have some issues with how they're doing it because I don't think Marion would run away. Like, if we're talking about the plot of Psycho, Marion running away, it isn't going to be at a hotel that she's already been to. Like,
No,
that just
absolutely. I mean, Norman had never seen her before at this one in Psycho. Like, so
and I know that
yeah,
they're taking some liberties with that, but
yeah.
that
No, of
I did
course.
when I was watching that, I was like, what if that is Sam and Marion?
Yeah, it was. It was. And then my last fun fact, the record that we see, the record location on it is Plainfield, which is where Ed Gein is from, which is what Robert Block, is that his last name? Robert Block, originally based Psycho on.
Oh, Ed Gein.
So yeah, those are my fun facts for you. Those are my fun
And
facts for you.
they're so fun, really.
Aren't they? I thought so. I thought so. Yeah, so we did it. We This is obviously a much shorter episode than Sunday because it is a regular
Right.
episode.
Back to our
Um,
regular scheduled format.
yeah, we're back to it. We're about to break into season 3 of Stargate. We're on the
Mhm.
last season of Bates Motel. Things are
Oh, but you know what
wildly
that means though,
happening
with being on the last season of Bates Motel, that means we're gonna have to like pick a new show soon. And I know you and I have
there.
talked about it, but like
Yeah. So
exciting.
stay tuned. We'll do our movie at the end before. We'll do our DNA awards. So if you have recommendations for finale movies, if you have recommendations for next season, you can start sending them in at any time. We've got 10 weeks to
Please.
figure it out. So,
Fantastic.
well, 12 weeks with the movie episode and the DNA
And the
awards.
DNA awards, yeah.
So, yeah, so stay tuned. Check in Thursday, Sunday, today's Thursday. Check
It's
in
Thursday.
Sunday for the season premiere of season 3 of Stargate SG-1.
No, no,
Oh my gosh, do not watch Stargate season 3 episode 1. Please watch
no.
Stargate Origins with Catherine on.
Yes, Stargate Origins, Catherine on Tubi or Redbox, or pay for it on Amazon or Apple or
Apple.
any of those.
Yeah. JK, we're watching it as one movie. It is
One,
gonna be fun.
yeah.
It's gonna be interesting. I'm ready. I'm excited about it. So yeah, take like half of what I said this episode and follow it, and everything else just let it go.
Just,
I'm just I'm just letting you know.
it's been too
Um,
long.
and
We need to eat food.
we've been talking for almost 6 hours now, so it's fine. But it's been real. It's been great. We love you guys. If you want to talk to us, if you want to recommend those movies, TV shows, have thoughts, have questions, email us deathandaliens@gmail.com. Find us on all the social media at Death and Aliens. You can find me at CECloud13.
And you can follow me everywhere at EMKAY_superstar.
And we will see you for Stargate Origins. See ya.
Bye.